Hi, you are watching Revenge of Reddit. After helping her overcome cancer, my wife left, saying it was part of her healing process, and took my money with her. Now that the cancer has returned, she's come back asking for my help again. I'm going through a painful stage. I don't want to play the victim, but honestly, I can't understand how someone who was everything to me could make such a choice. It's hard to write this without breaking down, but they say talking about it, even with strangers, helps to organize your thoughts. I was married to Soraya for 6 years. We had a really good relationship. She was my companion. I run a small printing business that I inherited from my father and worked hard to grow. She worked as an administrator. Both of us had steady schedules, a peaceful routine, and we were already thinking about starting a family soon. Everything changed a little over 2 years ago, when Soraya was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. For those who don't know, it's a type of cancer that affects the lymphatic system. It's not the most common, but it's one of the most treacherous. It comes without warning and attacks all at once. From then on, life became a roller coaster. Chemotherapy, constant testing, hospital visits, side effects. She lost weight, lost her hair, lost her spirit, and eventually also lost her job. They couldn't keep her in the company beyond her medical leave. And me. Well, I did the only thing I could. I put one of my trusted employees in charge of the business, stopped participating actively in several contracts we had in progress. We even lost a couple of big clients. It wasn't an easy decision, but I didn't hesitate for a second. My wife was my priority. I was there for every session, every hospitalization, every feverish or sleepless night. I became her caregiver, her nurse, her driver, her cook, her support. And I'm not complaining. I would do it all again. Because I loved her. Because she was a fighter, a strong woman who never let the disease defeat her, even when she was scared. I was proud of her. What I didn't realize back then was that she had become completely dependent on me. Not just physically, but emotionally too. I held her up because it was the right thing to do, but over time, that began to change something between us. Although I didn't notice it then, now I see that what I thought was love may have turned into something else for her, a kind of confinement disguised as care. After a long year of treatment, we got the best news we could ever hope for. The cancer had gone into remission. There were no traces left in her latest tests. We cried together, the same way we had cried when we got the worst news. Only this time, it was from happiness. That night, we went out to dinner at a restaurant we used to visit before everything happened. She held my hand and said, "Thank you for not abandoning me. You were my rock." I told her that leaving had never been an option, that when you truly love someone, you don't need to be asked to stay. You just stay. The doctors were clear, though. The lymphoma was aggressive, and although it had disappeared, it could come back if she didn't get checked every 3 months. Soraya promised to follow everything to the letter. We were determined to get our lives back, to make up for lost time. Having beaten cancer, Soraya and I tried to return to something resembling normal. I went back to my business, though cautiously I had lost contracts, important clients, and most of my momentum. Fortunately, my trusted employee had kept the basics running. Still, there was a lot to rebuild. I suggested that Soraya take it easy, that she shouldn't rush to find a new job and should take a few months to recover completely. She agreed with a tired smile, as if she too needed to release some pressure. I took care of all the expenses without a second thought. It wasn't a burden. For me, it was still an act of love. That didn't last long. A couple of weeks after her last checkup, I came home one afternoon and immediately felt something strange. The house was silent, too tidy. I thought she had gone out. I went to change, left my keys, and as I passed the kitchen table, I saw a white envelope. It didn't have a name on it, but I recognized it instantly, her handwriting. I can't remember if I sat down or read it standing, but I remember feeling an icy chill in my stomach the moment I began. Thank you for everything. Words aren't enough to describe how much your company, your support, and your love have meant to me. But I've realized how short life is. I don't want to spend it watching the days repeat themselves. I feel the need to explore, to experience, to live. And I know you can't leave your business because it's important to you. I'm not leaving out of anger. I just hope that someday you'll understand me. It wasn't signed, but it didn't need to be. It was written with that mix of delicacy and cowardice she always used when she didn't want to face things directly. I stood still for a while, reading and rereading that note. It didn't say where she was going, with whom, or why now. There was no, let's talk, no attempt at dialogue. She just left. Disappeared. The first thing I felt was sadness, pure, direct, like a stone in my chest. It hurt that she left, right after we'd gone through the hardest time together. It hurt that she made that decision without even talking to me, as if I didn't deserve one last conversation. Explore. Live. And what about our life plan, our family, our future? If she really wanted to explore, we could have talked about it. We could have planned a trip together. That's what you do in a marriage. You talk. You trust. You don't leave a note and sneak out the back door. That's not growth. That's cowardice. I tried calling her, not because I wanted to convince her to come back, but because I needed to at least understand what had happened. She didn't answer. I called again. The phone went straight to voicemail. She didn't even turn it off. She blocked me. I went upstairs and saw that she had left most of her things. Clothes, cosmetics, books. It looked staged, as if she wanted me to think she'd be back soon. But I already knew she wouldn't. That note was a farewell final. And then one question crossed my mind. How does she plan to explore the world without a job? I went to the office, turned on the computer, logged into online banking. I went straight to an account I never touched, the savings account I opened with my father's inheritance. It was an account Soraya knew about, but one I had always left untouched. I didn't use it even for emergencies. It was the only thing I kept as something symbolic, something that reminded me of where I came from. And it was empty. Almost $20,000 gone. All withdrawn over the past 3 days, through scheduled transfers from her user account, back when she still had access as a co-holder, the same access I gave her during her treatment, in case something happened to me. At that moment, sadness vanished. All I felt was rage. She hadn't just left. She'd left taking the only thing I would never have touched, not even in my darkest moments. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't leave an explanation. No plan. Nothing. Just a pretty hollow letter and an empty account. For years, I believed that love was proven through actions, that standing by someone through the worst times was what defined a couple, that if you stayed when everything fell apart, you deserved to stay when things got better. How wrong I was. The next few days felt like a fog. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I went to work, but I couldn't focus. Sometimes I'd open the note and read it again, as if maybe I had missed something, as if there was some hidden clue in her words that would explain it all. There wasn't. Just pretty words masking a betrayal. I talked to a lawyer. I showed him the bank statements and the documents proving that the account came from my father's inheritance. He told me I could report her for misappropriation and that there was a good chance a judge would rule in my favor, especially given the origin of the money. We also began divorce proceedings, but since I didn't know where she was or how to contact her, the lawyer explained that it could take longer than usual. I could file for abandonment of home, but everything had its process. He told me to be patient. For a while, I hesitated. Report her? My wife? After everything we'd lived through? But that money was what my father left me. The money he earned through years of hard work. And she hadn't just left me. She had gone beyond what I could have ever imagined. So yes, I filed the complaint, out of respect for myself and for my father. Today I feel strange, calm, and broken at the same time, as if I still haven't fully accepted that all this really happened. I'm writing this because I need to get it out. I'm not looking for pity. I just needed to tell the world that there once was a woman named Soraya, my wife, who beat cancer with my help, and then left me, taking everything I had left. It hurts, more than I can describe. I know I'll recover. I'll move forward. This won't destroy me. But for now, all I can say is, it hurts. A lot. Thank you for reading, strangers. Update 1 for those asking how I am. Thank you. Really. I didn't expect to receive so many words of support. I always thought these online communities were only for hate, mockery, or for people to tell you that you deserved it for missing the red flags. But I found many genuine messages. People who said the right words at the right time. I'm more grateful than I can express. It's been several months since that first post, and believe it or not, I can say I'm doing much better now. It hasn't been easy. There were dark days. Days when getting out of bed felt impossible, when everything I did seemed meaningless. The business struggled more than I expected, mostly because my head wasn't in it. But little by little, I started pulling myself together again. I began making decisions and focusing once more on what I had built with so much effort. And that saved me. I don't know if I'm ready for something serious yet, but I've met an interesting woman. She's a client of the print shop. Nothing strange, nothing planned. It started as a casual chat while reviewing a print order, then another conversation over coffee, and so on. We've met several times, just as friends. And for now, that's fine. I'm taking things very slowly. I won't lie, I've become more suspicious. Much more. It's hard for me to open up or get excited. Sometimes I catch myself analyzing every word, every gesture, as if I were searching for signs that don't even exist. But I know that's normal after what I went through. I'm broken in places I'm only now beginning to identify. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that I don't need to rush anything. As for Soraya, I haven't heard from her. Nothing. It's as if she vanished from the map. I don't know if that's good or bad. Sometimes I prefer it that way. Other times, I wish I could understand what was really going on in her head. What I can tell you is how the legal process is going. After filing the report for misappropriation for the withdrawal of funds from the inheritance account, my lawyer made good progress. We had to provide evidence that the money came directly from my father's inheritance, that it was never used as a joint marital fund, that Soraya only had access for medical emergencies, and that she had clearly abused that trust. The court accepted the case. Since she didn't appear, she was declared in procedural default. That doesn't magically solve everything, but it's an important step. It prevents her from claiming any rights over the business or any property in my name. It also opens the possibility of seizing assets if she ever reappears with a traceable bank account or job. For now, I haven't recovered the money. There's no way. But at least I have the peace of mind that her actions were legally recognized for what they were. Theft. A theft disguised as emotional liberation. As for the divorce, that's also moving forward, though more slowly. Since there's been no response from her, the process can't be closed completely until a certain amount of time passes and all notification attempts are exhausted. The judicial edict has already been published, a formality to make the case public, and now we're waiting for a judge to issue the dissolution of the marriage under abandonment. My lawyer explained that, even without her signature, we're legally separated in practice. We don't live together, share assets, or have contact. All that's left is the final paper. It's just a matter of time. Meanwhile, I live my life. Sometimes I stop and think about everything that happened, how I went from caring for my wife while she fought for her life to reading a letter saying she left because she felt trapped, to discovering she had taken the money my father left me, to being left with emptiness and silence. But I also think about what came afterward, opening the print shop every morning, talking to new clients, learning to sleep alone without it keeping me awake, talking to this new woman without rushing anything, without trying to fill any voids, without using her as a bandage, just letting things flow. Maybe the worst part of what happened wasn't the abandonment. It was realizing that everything I gave, everything I offered, was treated as if it meant nothing, as if it were just expected, as if I had only been a tool to help her survive her illness, and once she was healed, she could throw me away. But now, after months of silence, introspection, and inner work, I can say that this doesn't define me. The love I gave wasn't in vain. I don't regret being there when she needed me, because that says something about me, not about her. What she did afterward, that defines her. As for me, I'm fine. I'm taking care of myself. I'm working more and better. I go for walks every day. I've reconnected with old friends I had drifted away from because of work and marriage. I also started therapy. At first I didn't want to, but it helped me more than I ever thought it would. Thank you for reading me again. Thank you for making me feel less alone during one of the worst times of my life. If there's ever news about Soraya, I'll come back with another update. You won't believe it. Well, some of you actually predicted it in the previous comments. Many warned me more than once, saying that someday Soraya would come back. And she did. It's been 1.5 years since she disappeared out of nowhere, leaving a letter and draining the savings account with my father's inheritance. Since then, I hadn't heard a single word from her. No news at all, until a few days ago. That day, I was at home with Canella Yes, the woman I mentioned in the previous post. After several outings, we decided to start a relationship. Everything was calm, unhurried. She knows everything I went through, from Soraya's cancer to her abandonment and theft. She listened, gave me space, and slowly became important to me. And that day, Soraya showed up. She didn't knock. She didn't call. She just walked straight into the house. I guess she still had a key, even though I thought I had changed all of them. She found us together, and it was like stepping on a mine. She looked awful, very pale, almost ghostly. She had a scarf tied around her neck, which struck me as odd. It was over 25 degrees that day. That out-of-place garment made me think what I didn't want to think, that the cancer had returned. There were no greetings or explanations, only reproaches. She started yelling, furious that I was with another woman in our house. She said we were still legally married, and that I was the unfaithful one. The nerve was unbelievable. I tried to tell her she had no right to claim anything, that she couldn't disappear and then show up acting like time hadn't passed. But before she could answer, Soraya collapsed. She fainted suddenly, without warning. I froze. It was only a few seconds, but it took me a while to react. The situation was overwhelming. It was Canella who pulled me out of my shock. She told me to take Soraya to the hospital, that I couldn't just leave her there. And yes, I took her, out of basic humanity. I didn't want to carry the guilt of leaving someone passed out on my floor, but deep down, I didn't want anything to do with her anymore. Canella stayed with her. That woman is an angel. Despite knowing everything Soraya had done to me, she agreed to stay while they stabilized her. Later, she called to tell me Soraya had woken up and was asking for me. I thought it was a good moment to finally close everything once and for all. When I arrived, Soraya was weak, but speaking clearly. She asked for forgiveness again. She said she didn't regret leaving, that it had been part of her healing process, that she needed to let go, to breathe, to experience life after the trauma of cancer, that leaving me back then was part of that. But now, after everything, she wanted to know if we could start over, wipe the slate clean, and see what happened. When she finished, I was direct. "I'm seeing Canella," I said. "You and I are legally divorced. Maybe you never received the notifications, but the process went through and closed months ago. And what you did can't be fixed with apologies." She frowned, surprised, tried to downplay it. "I didn't think you'd take it that far," she said. "Everything was very confusing back then. The money, everything. It was part of the mental chaos I was in." But I didn't let her continue. "That money wasn't yours," I said. "It was my father's inheritance. I never gave you permission to touch it. We didn't use it even during your treatment. I never touched it for myself either. And you stole it without asking. That wasn't confusion. That was selfishness. That was betrayal. And you'll pay for it." I reminded her that the criminal complaint for misappropriation had gone forward, that since she never appeared, she had been declared in default, and that there was already a ruling in my favor. If she ever got a formal job, that money would be reclaimed, whether she liked it or not. That's when her tone changed. She was no longer arrogant. She told me the lymphoma had returned, this time more aggressively, that she had let her guard down, believing she was cured, that she had skipped her checkups, that now she had no insurance, no partner, no family willing to help. And that despite everything, she believed what we once had deserved a second chance. I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel anything. "I'm not stopping my life for someone who despised me when I was the one who needed her," I told her. "I don't hate you, but there's nothing left." She tried appealing to the past, reminding me of our promises, our memories, everything we had built. But to me, all of that no longer existed. That pain had died long ago. In my mind, Soraya was already dead. And if now the cancer ends up taking her for real, it doesn't affect me. I've already mourned her. I've already buried her emotionally. I have no tears left. There is, however, one thing I can't deny. While I was looking at her, so fragile and sick, only one thought echoed in my mind: the money. The money she took. The money I left to rot in an account I never touched, out of respect for my father's memory. The money I should have used for myself to grow, to move on, but didn't. I regret that. Because I know I must consider it lost. Because I know she will die soon. But that's fine. That chapter is closed. I don't know how Soraya will pay for her treatment. It's not my problem. It's not my responsibility. I'm not offering help, neither emotional, financial, nor any other kind. She's no longer my concern. My energy is elsewhere now, on rebuilding myself, on how my relationship with Canella evolves, on moving forward with my head held high.